again. Morning, afternoon, evening, guten Tag. So this is your flip video for instrumentation. Your lesson doing lesson criteria, or your lesson is to understand what instrumentation is. What does it mean in terms of an element, and what are then the features? And then your success criteria is to understand the order and the ranges of the instruments, and also understand their families of instruments, but then also to understand how or what kind of instruments are in certain ensembles. If it just being a vocal ensemble, if it is being a classical piece of music ensemble, is it a jazz ensemble, or is it a rock or pop ensemble? So that's the success criteria today. There are six main types of instruments that we talk about nowadays. There is the vocals, there is the woodwind, the brass, the percussion, the strings, and computer-generated or Midi or electronic instruments. Of course, computer-generated sounds, a very relatively new instrument compared to the others that are on this list. And for those that they can really produce any sound now, really, and it's determined by who the creator or how the performer wants the sound to use those instruments. So it's a very interesting era in music technology. So there are the vocals. They are the instrument that can basically play every single note. They can play quarter notes or quarter tones, and they can play every note in between that as well. So they can go very minuscule, but very hard to pitch, however. So the main voice parts are soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Soprano and alto are for the females. Tenor and bass are for the males. However, they are others. So, for example, there is a mezzo piano for a female, and that is in between soprano and alto. For the males, there is an alto part, and that's usually for pre-puberty males. But also there is a word or a part called a countertenor, which is actually very interesting, and maybe you want to watch that on YouTube. And that is a man who can sing in the range of an alto and a soprano. In the earlier days, countertenors used to be castrated, but now it's just some people that can sing that high. And also in the males, there is a baritone part, which that is in between the tenor and the bass. So yeah, have a look at this video and have a look at what an orchestra looks like when it is played. Every person sits in a specific seat. Everyone has a specific part as well. They're in a specific seat, so then the conductor knows where to see or who to look at if something that they want to get that player to perform. So it's not just random seating, they're all there in a particular place. And generally it stays the same across all orchestras. The strings can move around in sections, but generally it is the same. So let's go through the first round, or the first lot of classical instruments. The first round is the woodwinds. Now they are found at the top of the score of an orchestral piece of music, and they're called woodwinds because they used to be all made out of wood. However, they have now changed. Some are metal, some are even fiberglass. However, they all produce a sound either blown through a mouthpiece or what we call reeds, either a singular reed or a double reed. So the instruments are piccolo and flute, which are very closely linked to each other, one smaller than the other, being the piccolo. There is a clarinet and the bass clarinet, which are also very much the same or very similar to the saxophone. The saxophone was the instrument very closely based on the clarinet. So there's a clarinet and the bass clarinet being the lower one of the two. Oboe and the cor anglais, so they are very similar, cor anglais being lower, and then there's the bassoon and the contrabassoon being the very, very deep instrument in the orchestra from the woodwind family. And you can get an understanding of what they sound like when you have a look at the brass video down below, which I will link in the video, link in the YouTube video below. Then there is the brass. Now the brass is kind of, you could say, the smallest but also the loudest group in the orchestra. They're the smallest because they produce the louder sound. and to justify any bigger means that, or a larger section means that you need more instruments. So to produce a sound, you need to produce a raspberry with your lips. So your lips are closely put together, and then you try and blow them together. The order of them is in the orchestra is French horn, trombone, and tuba. However, there is also instruments like the cornet and the tenor horn. Then there is the percussion. Percussion instruments that you can either hit or strike to produce a sound. And there are two types, either it being pitched or unpitched. So, for example, the unpitched are the snare drums, the timpani, however you can pitch them. However, there's double howevers. You can only play one pitch at a time. So if you want two pitches at a time, then you have to have two different timpani drums. There's also the bass drum, the triangle, and the cymbals, and many, many more. But there's also the pitched ones, which are piano, xylophone, and the glockenspiel. If you want to have any more, if you want to have a look at them and see what they sound like, have a look at the video. That will be linked. Then there is the string family, the biggest of the orchestra, the violins, and then it's the violas, the cellos, the double bass or the double basso, and then the harp. Now, each of them are in the order that they come in, that I read out in the orchestral score. And to produce a sound, they either use a bow or they have to be plucked. So yeah, very interesting instrument, but mostly one of the more well-known. Now we have a look at the jazz style. The jazz style has very different combinations of these instruments, but predominantly they are classified into two groups. One being solo instruments, and the other being the rhythmic section. The rhythm section is generally a combination of the piano, the double bass, or electric guitar, or the drum kit. Now these are the ones that generally play the harmony down at the bottom, so they're playing the chords. And they also keep in time. So it's harmonic rhythm, basically, hence why the name rhythm section. Now you have solo instruments, and you can have many combinations of these. You can have like 8 saxophones, or you could have 4 trombones. But generally the order that or the instruments that do play in jazz ensembles are trumpets, saxophones, trombones, and vocals. There are a few more, but generally at level 1, those are the ones that you need to know. Then we get to the contemporary music, which is your typical music rock band or pop band kind of group ensemble. There are 2 guitars, which is the electric guitar, which is the lead, and then the electric guitar, which is the rhythmic lead, playing all the singular notes or the riffs, and then the rhythmic playing all the chords. There is then the bass guitar, then the drum kit, and then the vocals. And then there's computer generated, and these are made from the 20th century and onwards. Electronic generated and created by coding into a computer or into a system, or has to be into a computer mainly, and more commonly used in electronic music such as techno and dubstep, but also used in R&B, used more in contemporary music. You could also say that auto-tune is actually a computer-generated instrument as well, because it changes the sound, not just necessarily a filter. So yeah, is there any more? No, there is no more. So that is your understanding of instruments. So, ka get that.